Yo, what's going on, Foot Clan? Mr. Shredder here. Today I'll be taking a dive into this past weekend's LCS. Um, this huge now, I guess, thing about how to look at the meta and can we use online results to really, say, hey, is this the meta? Is it not? Would it be different in real life? But hey, whatever floats people vote. I'll give y'all my opinion on it. So yeah, if you like what you're hearing, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, so let's take a dive into this. All right, cool. So we're gonna talk about is online worth it. We're then gonna talk about is this a tier zero format, and I will give you my opinions on that because there seems to be some common misconceptions or people's thoughts on it, and is it that or not? So well, let's talk about what makes online different. And when we have these platforms such as Dueling Book and other onlines, such as that they have, I think it's called YGO Pro, but I think they changed it as of recently. So we're gonna talk about like how that works here, and let's just take a dive into that. So do these matter? And yes and no, they kind of don't. So the reason why they do matter in this particular in this situation is because you can't play in real life. But the reason why they really have that backing of mattering is because there are top players playing at these events. It's not like it's just anyone online, and you're having them be the size of regionals. I mean, let's look at this LCS. The LCS had over 240 players. That's the size of your general regional, and it has top players. It has a lot of players topping. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head how many players it takes to get your invite, but the top 32 pretty much says it. What the most represented deck is. Um, and in my opinion, when you look at these LCSs or these dueling book things and stuff like that in tournaments, is the reason why they matter, but they're kind of weird, is because players are starting to play decks that they may not be able to play in real life, so they're kind of testing. So it does give you this weird look on the meta where it's like, well, if you were going to a regional, are you going to see this much of Emancipators? Are you going to see this much Eldritch? Are you going to see this much Salad? Are you going to see this much Dragon Link? Are you going to see this top? Are you going to see that? Or what am I going to see? And the great part about this, it lets us get a more dive look into the meta to what top players are actually thinking. Like we now get to see what they're thinking instantly instead of waiting to see the results and online later like it would be in real life when you have a regional and stuff like that. And you are seeing a lot of players test out ideas and test out builds. Obviously, you have him. Let's look at Eldritch first. Eldritch here has, they're trying the invoked build, and they're not even trying pure anymore. Like they're just trying whatever. They're trying the invoked build. They're trying the light swarm build. There's other builds like when we talked in the last video, we talked about all these different builds that Eldritch could go in all these routes. Um, and I said this, before that these decks really do have the potential to see play, and they are. Like players are testing them. I mean, you think about it. Secret Slayer has what? I think this is. They take up 26 of the top 32 from this LCS. The reason why this LCS matters is because it's a big event. It has big people. It has a lot of players playing it. You have former PPG winners. You have very high skill Nats and regionals and YCS Yugioh players that are there. So you really do get this field. But I think in my um, in my opinion, what the differences are when you're playing online, when you're playing in real life, is one, you have the time is different. Obviously, when you're playing online, their their time is different because you have 50 minutes, which actually kind of matters because when you're playing in real life, you only got 40 minutes, and things. I don't know if does it go faster or slower, because in real life, people kind of change. Like they'll play differently, or they'll play slower, they'll play faster. I mean, I've seen games go by in like 10 minutes for some players online, where in real life, like you're still sitting at the table for 40 minutes, and like I don't get it. It's just different. So one, you have time. Another one is play styles. Obviously, players can now pick and choose what they want to play because they're not hindered to what you would say is a budget. I do feel like this, like post eternity code, or even now, if we have real life tournaments, you would see more Salad and more Dinos than you would see Emancipators and a Lich, because those decks are cheaper, and that links players to lean that way. That's why a deck sees more play, is because it's cheaper, the accessibility, and when a deck's cheaper, it's not better. If you could play if a skilled player can take something like Salad and be good with it, and they feel like they're better with it than taking something they don't know, they're probably going to do that. These online tournaments are testing grounds. It is a great testing ground for them to really go about and do what they need to do. The last thing is comfort, and I use comfort as a good example because comfort is a thing where players, they're either it comfort because you're not, when you play in real life from online, I guess you could say this is, there's, I don't know, is there less pressure or more pressure, but it seems like when you're at home, there's kind of, it's a relaxed environment to an extent where you're not, there's not a bunch of people, you've seen it, we've seen where people will misplay because, not because of the time, but because other players will be watching them or something like that, and some people don't feel comfortable. It is what it is, but I feel like that's how it is. Now, this leads me into my next point. Are we in a tier 0 format? Because I guess we now have to get into that. In my opinion, it is too early to say, because I always say it's too early because I use the form the when you go back to the Eternal format that last month where we had all the 4 decks, you look at Orcus, right? Like we knew Orcus was the best deck, but what people were really scared of was Luna Light Orcus at first, and they were scared of Luna Light Orcus and all that worse. But what ended up being better was what was it, like Sky Striker Orcus? So it was still Orcus, but it was like the variants, and players were trying to find what they really wanted, what had the higher ceiling. I feel like with Emancipators, I feel like it's a great deck. I feel like now it has established itself as no longer a sleeper, but as a meta deck. That being said, I feel like it's the best deck till everybody gets a turning code. We know the EU has theirs, and here in the here in America we don't, because, but I guess Konami's printing shop that has everything, like the Texas shop, they got a real bad case of corona. So there's that, and the other there's that, and the other reason I don't feel like it's a tier 0 format is because percentage wise it's not even taking up enough, and we're only 2 weeks in, and I'm already hearing ban Block Dragon. I hate to say it, but I don't like banning cards if there's a solution to another way, and that's a totally different story. Um, but yeah, and that's the other thing. I don't know, is this are do I guess do a lot of players feel like this is the best deck, or do they want to test it to see is it the best deck? I mean, so for example, I'm gonna look at Pat. Pat was testing Eldridge, but he's the one testing it the most in my opinion. But he was testing Invoked, and he didn't really like Invoked because that, like, this weekend for this event he was testing the Invoked Eldridge idea, and the problem was he felt like he kept bricking. So he, For some players, they do treat this as a testing ground. For others, they are treating this like a competition. It doesn't matter if money's on the line or not. You get to still see what the best players are thinking or what they're trying. I mean, you still have some players committed to the deck they play in real life. You know, Shooping still playing Rockets. You have players here still playing Subterra, still playing Salad. You have another guy, he made his zoo list in like 30 minutes. And you can get most of these like deck profiles. I'm not going to give them to y'all. Cause not that I don't want to take away from someone else's content, but there's a bunch of interviews on it. And I feel like if you want them, you should watch it. But back to the tier 0 thing. Do I feel like it's tier 0? No, you can't tell. One, it's not enough of it. I feel like tier 0, it has to be like off the gate. If you were asking me right now, is it tier 0? It would have to take up more of the pie chart from more like 26 out of 32. Then I would say, okay, Anticipators, it's a tier 0 format. What are we gonna do about this? La-di-da-da, stuff like that. But I don't feel like that. To wrap things up, I feel like online is a great place for you to see what the meta is. Yes. Do I feel like this is the described meta? No, I don't feel like you should go off of this chart. I do feel like if you go into a real life event, players are gonna change how they play. I feel like it may not be 18 Eldritch, it may be less. It may be more Salad, it may be more, not Eldritch Emancipators. You may see less Emancipators, less Eldritch. I do feel like there would be like, I feel like we're gonna get more of a diverse, like not just one deck's taking up a majority spot. I do feel like we're going to, as you know, time going forward, as you get to that more turning codes, you're gonna get more Salad, you're gonna get more Orcus, you're gonna get more Dino, you're gonna get more Dragon Link, you're gonna get those, you're going to get like those. I feel like they're not gonna have 1 or 2 spots, they may have 4, so it may be like, I mean, you're gonna have 8 decks at the least in a pie chart. And I do feel like our format is always and has been more diverse, even though I feel like we have a more combo based format. So time, play styles, and comfort are why I feel like it's different from online to real life, and I really don't feel like we're in a tier 0 format. That being said, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later.